Asmongold and the philosophy of being a man. Oh boy.
Why does it seem like masculinity is shunned lately?
I think modern men are being made to pay for the advantages that their fathers and grandfathers had. And in a world in which we...
By the way, I don't think masculinity is shunned. I think that a lot of people view masculinity as being aggressive and hostile, and I don't think that's real masculinity. Like, in my opinion, masculinity is Aragorn. It's not Andrew Tate.
Okay, I have absolutely no idea who in the modern age, even 10, 20, or 30, or maybe even 40 years ago, would consider that masculinity is just aggression and hostility. Andrew Tate is obviously the bad example here, right? And no one's celebrating Andrew Tate because of him being aggressive. He's not going around beating people on the street, and if he did that, no one would be celebrating it. Now, a couple of people would be, but, you know, there exists an extreme for every position and whatnot, and we don't take that into account because those people are annoying in conversations like this. But in general, no one would be celebrating that. Andrew Tate doesn't even do it. So the only part of aggression that fits here is the idea that he is brazen and when he sees something that he disagrees with, he says that? Is that supposed to be bad? You know, that he says some mean things on Twitter. The only people in general to begin with who see it that way, that masculinity is this toxic thing that's only about violence and whatnot, are, well, modern day third, fourth, or whichever wave of absolute insane feminism we are on here, and that's pretty much the only ones who think that way to begin with. No one else does that. We don't celebrate that. People look up to Andrew Tate because he's buff, he has a lot of money, and he gets girls. That's it.
From a brawn-based to a brain-based economy, and you don't need protectors and providers that much. We've allowed women to access education and employment and become socioeconomically viable on their own. They literally don't need no man. For many of the women, 2 women for every 1 man completing a 4-year US college degree. Women aged 21 to 29 earn £1,111 more than men on average. Wow. So they're literally like...
Good. Good. If a woman appears that wants to provide for me, I'm all down, boy.
Ahead by most of the key objective metrics that people under the age of 30 care about.
Jesus.
What's the role for men in that? And it's also, there's a current trend of it being cool to dunk on whoever was seen to have had the advantages in the past, right?
This is a problem. I think that he brings up a really good point about this, is that the whole idea of like original sin, where it's like, you know, women or like people hating like men or like white people or something like that, or straight people, like any type of resentment that's being leveraged at somebody for something that they didn't directly do is almost always a bad idea. I can't think of a single instance where it's not. It's basically, I mean, they wrote a whole book about it. People still read the book. It's called the Bible. That's why original sin was bad and Jesus had to come in. That's why it's bad. Yeah, it's original sin. Exactly, yes.
Straight
years
white
ago.
males.
Huh. I would say people just want someone to blame. And, well, it's a pretty easy thing to blame because men have been in the majority of power in the past forever. And they have had the majority power in the everything, pretty much. So, I think it's just an easy scapegoat. It's not any kind of magical original sin. It's just people finding who they can blame.
Syndrome. Like, straight that had advantages in the past because people who are homosexual were mistreated. Fucking Alan Turing was chemically castrated. White, slavery wasn't that long ago. Like, yes, also had some benefits. Male. Women weren't allowed to go to university until not so long ago. They were, etc., etc., etc.
He's right.
But it uses errors of the past to make compensations in the present. And that fundamentally means that, like, men, as one of the biggest groups that have seen to...
Compensations for what, though? All of that has been rectified. All these problems that women can go to university, You can now. You have been granted that ability for a long time now. So what is there to rectify? Nothing. They just want something to moan about, and that's pretty much it. Everyone wants to be a victim. Victimhood is a great currency nowadays.
Who have had some kind of benefit immediately get dunked to the bottom of the pile. And yet, if you look even remotely closely at the outcomes that lots of guys are getting, I don't think that there's much evidence that guys are flourishing at the moment. Like,
I think here's a really good way to tell whether guys are doing well in society now or not. Every single time that people are talking about robot companions, it's always about robot girlfriends and not robot boyfriends.
Uh-huh.
I think that says a lot.
I think it was the first quarter
I think that just says that men are way more sexually active in that sense than women, but okay.
of last year, like 33% of new CEOs were female. And that was heralded.
Man, look at how that's working out for places like Hasbro. Not good, not good.
It is like new frontier, but until it's at 50%, it doesn't matter. It's like, oh, God. Do 50% of women want to be CEOs? Like,
No.
really? Is that a life that you aspire to? I don't fucking aspire to be a CEO, and I own my own company. I don't want to be a CEO. It sounds like it sucks. I'm looking forward to the day when someone else steps in and takes that role. So guys had it good in some ways for a while, and it's just like,
Well, that's not even a question, right? Like, I mean, men, it's not even a question that, like, if you're a white guy, you historically had massive fucking advantages. Like, yeah, obviously. Now, I'm not talking about like today, but I'm talking about like 50 years ago, even 100 years ago. Absolutely. 150 years ago. Whoa. Only in the US? Well, yeah, I'm not talking about why the fuck would I be talking about Europe? I don't live in Europe.
What kind of magical advantages white guys had in white society 150 years ago? I'm not aware of them, I'm sorry. But, you know, what is this magic thing? You know? What is this magic advantage that you had? This is the same argument as saying, oh, look at that poor person. He's so much better off than the other poor people because he's white. Oh, look at that homeless bum ODing on what's fentanyl. There we go. Best drug ever. Fentanyl. Ah, he's over that white fentanyl the addict is overdosing. He has it so much better than the non-white one. Yeah, sure. These magical advantages didn't exist 150 years ago.
it's like cultural reparations for men to pay this fine that.
And by the way, if you want to be really pedantic, oh, sure, they existed. Yes, advantages have always existed in different parts of a different structured society. 100 years ago, women also had the advantage that they didn't ever need to actually worry about getting a job. Nowadays, that women go into the workplace so much more, they now have to worry about being jobless. 150 years ago, you didn't have to worry about that. You just had to worry about getting a husband. And that was, to a certain degree, also an advantage. So, these advantages change with time, and these disadvantages maybe are not disadvantages depending on your views.
Certain areas of the world believe that they owe to people. And that means that, like, mistreating them or considering them to be in a privileged position is something that everybody should focus on.
How do you?
I don't think that that's the entire picture. I think that also there is a culture that we have, like in Western society.
I don't think the guy speaking is trying to, paint the picture of the whole world and how it works to begin with, okay?
Where it's generally okay to shit on people who you think are in a position that's above you. It's kind of what I said, is that you can eat the rich, but you can't eat the poor. A lot of fat girls can get together and talk about skinny bitches, but if skinny girls get together and talk about fat girls, they're mean. Like, men feel like they can say bad things. Men are trash is fine. It's a joke. But whenever men say that, then they should be, they're like an awful person or whatever. They're like, oh, I wonder if he beats his wife. Something like that. There are so many instances where this is the case, and I think that in almost every single instance, the idea of punching up is viewed to be as some sort of like noble thing to do, and I think that that's why it happens with all of these instances.
Damn, this sounds like a modern day American brain rot takes. True.
It's because that, and this is something that's beyond like being a guy or like being a race. I think this is with everything. It's the same as like, people feel like it's more comfortable to joke around with somebody for being really tall versus being really short, like as a guy. And why is that?
Do they? I'm not sure.
Well, because being, really short is seen as a bad thing, as not in the same way that being really tall is. No matters. Yeah, it's the culture of punching up. Exactly.
I mean, I kind of agree, but that's a horrible way to put it.
Yeah, and that's why people think, again, that's why people think it's okay to steal from Walmart. Because it's like, oh, well, Walmart's a big company, I can do that.
No, people think it's okay to steal from Walmart because all consequences of stealing have been absolutely nullified. That's why they think it's okay to steal from Walmart. Bro, these people stealing from Walmart are not stealing the bread, okay? They're not stealing to feed themselves. That's the thing. None of that applies. No one thinks it's okay to steal from Walmart because you're poor and you're gonna die from hunger any second now. Because no one's stealing the food. Well, the expensive food maybe, but no one's stealing the bread.
It's again another like moral justification, and this is something that's prevalent throughout all of society.
Navigate that as a guy.
Not self-pitying, I think. Like, would it have been easier as a guy to have been born 50 years ago?
Yeah.
Maybe. Maybe.
Don't know. Probably not. The expectancy would be much higher if you...
Because you would have been able to out-earn and out-educate.
But that's, then again, everyone's perspective on what they want to do and blah, blah, blah.
Most of the women in your local village or whatever, pretty easily, because 50 years ago was when Title IX was introduced, which was to get more women into universities. So you would have been the highest performing person, and hypergamy would have allowed you to have risen to...
Is that like the Rockefeller plan? Because they understood, wait a minute, we can increase the consumption of shit if women also participate in the economy more frequently like this. Oh boy, interesting topics.
To the top, and more women would have found you attractive. But it's not. And pitying yourself or pitying the world or like screaming and creating a victim mindset around yourself is literally just giving the power to somebody else.
Holy fuck. Holy fuck. Absolutely. Abso-fucking-lutely. Holy shit. Finally. Yes, I wish more people would say this. He's completely right. Yeah, it doesn't matter how hard you think it is. Whenever you wake up the next day, you're still where you are. You can spend all day thinking about, I wish it was whatever, 150 years ago, it would have been so easier. Yeah, but it's not, so shut the fuck up. So
that was completely not his point. His point was that if you say, oh, my life's bad because X, X, and X, and X, you are completely subverting any power from yourself and putting it on those people. And you no longer have to fix anything because you don't have the power to change anything. It's those bad people doing the things that they have power over you, and thus they need to be changed. You can keep on going as you are because you're just a victim. You're powerless. But those people over there, they're the bad ones. They have the power. And we need to change them because I'm suffering because of them. And I have no power to change that. That is what he's saying.
It's on you, yeah.
Alex's thing, right? It's like wherever you point the finger of blame, or wherever you point the finger of responsibility is where you point the finger of power. It's like, if you do that, it's like, this is you. It's only you that's going to come and save you with regards to this. So navigating it is difficult. I think
and this is the problem, because like a lot of people, this type of advice is actually so unpopular nowadays because people...
It's still popular. Most people understand it. Well, not most people. Now with the newer generations, it's different. But there's still a very huge chunk of people who understand that, wallowing in self-pity is not exactly going to make your life better, that you kind of need to change it for your own.
On the internet are trying to create an onion of protection layers against personal accountability. They want to figure out all of the different ways that society is out to get them and why it's society's fault that they're not getting a job and instead they're jerking off to hentai all day and playing League of Legends.
I'm pretty sure those people are pretty comfy with their lives in general.
Well, you can do that.
For now. After it's gonna be the broom closet and a leather belt.
But it's not really going to improve your life. And at a certain point, maybe a little bit of that might just be your fault. And that's why you see a lot of the different people that are popular for giving like lifestyle advice on the internet generally give a lot of that lifestyle advice in a passive tense. It's like, well, you know, society is rigged against you, and oh, it's not fair, and oh, well, this isn't, you know, like you can't do this, and you know, these things are harder for people like you to do. People are always looking for a reason why it's somebody else's fault. It's victim mentality. It's learned helplessness. Yeah, it is. It is. Absolutely it is. Yeah, it's not your fault. Exactly.
We got there, boys. Took a while, but we got there.
And honest as a guy as well. Like, look, it's fucking tough. It's tough in many, many ways. And
yeah, it is, but it's not going to get better if you don't do anything.
even if it looks like guys have got it all sorted from the outside, I think that there are so many that are struggling. And that's something that there needs to be a...
Screams internally.
Like a big cultural shift around.
It's not going to happen because men are seen as the providers and the protectors of society. And you don't want to have a provider and protector.
Are you kidding me? Maybe he missed the... who would you rather be in a forest with a man or a bear? America chose bear. Because that's less dangerous, obviously. Ah, man.
Bitching and crying and getting depression and feeling sad. Because it makes everybody else who they're protecting feel insecure. That's the reality. That's what's not going to happen. You're never going to expect people and like guys to be able to like come out with their feelings and people are not going to care. Yeah, I don't want to fight a bear. Yeah, you might not, but that's still what's going to happen. Stopping.
You know what this reminds me of? This is true, by the way. This is true, but this is hilarious. Because women constantly talk about, oh, men should share with their feelings. And this is like what it is. The early show, I saw a clip. It was Goofy Goldberg, or what's her name, with a bunch of hosts. And one of them says, men should share with their feelings more. And then one says, my man actually shares his feelings with me sometimes, and you know he tells me stuff. And the same woman who says men need to share their feelings more, and she had a whole tirade about that even previously, that it should be done without missing a goddamn beat. You know what she does? She asks, maybe your husband's gay. Yeah. Good times.
Being a bitch. Yeah, it's exactly what's happening. It is what's happening. And like guys are not going to get like, I think that people fall into the trap.
Men should share their feelings. Men shares feeling. He's gay.
Of trying to be seen on social media. And it is so mentally corrosive that I don't think that anybody realizes how bad it is. Because
I think just creating these random words like mentally corrosive, or what's the good one that Asmongold protected Hassan on? Oh yeah, social battery. Yeah, I mean, creating all these random shit tier terms about things that barely exist and everyone has to deal with, and you know, putting yourself in the situation, well, my social battery is drained. That's just making society worse. Stop trying to make up these random terms.
Because people are constantly trying to get other people to validate their concerns and validate their struggles, validate their life choices.
Yes, and that's not a bad thing. That's one of the most, absolutely, in my opinion, it's the most basic thing of being human. Everyone wants their needs to be heard, their opinions to be valued, and stuff like that. If you want to manipulate humans, just value someone's opinion. Okay? The easiest way. After everything I have read, after everything I have done, just saying that someone is right is the easiest way to achieve anything when it comes to humans, because everyone wants to be right, everyone wants to be validated, everyone wants to be heard. This is normal.
Is everything like that? Man up, yeah. And like the thing is that you can say man up, and it's like, oh, this is toxic masculinity, this is all this other stuff. It's not going to change. People are still going to say that, and they're still going to hold you to that. And the society, it's not going to, like, it's not like we're going to have a societal shift where people don't expect this out of men. This is built into us on a biological level. That's why
I mean,
men are bigger and stronger than women. That's all there is to it.
I mean, is he bigger and stronger than the average woman? I don't know. Tough choices, tough decisions here. Is Chicken Wing McNugget actually manly? I don't know. Can the average woman beat him? Probably. I mean, the average man will never lose against even probably the strongest of women unless there's something real. Well, then you're not average, I guess. But he's below average. How can you say that? You require protection from everyone in the world.
It's not going to change.
Especially from people who say bad things about you on the internet.
It's a cultural shift.
So you talk about suppressing men, right? What's the word that you use?
What do you mean?
Like how masculinity and men, like you go into war mode, and then when you're not in war mode, you're suppressed or something like that.
I'm not sure if that's me.
Well, you used a different word rather than suppressed.
Okay.
How like masculinity or whatever is diminishing.
Okay.
Or
okay.
how it's
yeah,
in a point right now where like it's kind of being hidden.
Okay, I would say it's being eroded. Yeah, for sure.
Eroded.
Yeah.
Sure. So that is a product of the environment that we're in.
Mm-hmm.
So if that is the case, you can't necessarily change the environment. No government body is going to step in and change the environment. And that's just going to be a byproduct of the environment that we are placed in. How do you then necessarily like change that? Like, are you...
It's unhealthy to even try to change the world. I think that the moment that somebody puts the mantle on and they say, I have to change the world, and like my job is to change the way that people think and change the world and change the way that society...
Based Asmongold. He wants to go back to the old days where you can just hit your woman how much you want because, well, any reason, honestly. Based.
He sees things. This was never going to work. Like, just stop it. Just stop doing this. Like, and it has worked in the past, and people will be like, oh yeah, well, look at Gandhi or something like that. You're not Gandhi. Stop it. Fucking stop it. Gandhi wasn't watching motivational videos on YouTube.
The hell? How did... Wait, did Gandhi change the world? How did Gandhi change the world? Most important legacy was in creating a culture of peace and proving the efficiency of non-violent, non-cooperation, and drawing the world's attention, the gap between what we do and what we are capable of doing. Yeah, okay, that sounds very out there in the clouds.
Of how to be a man. Okay, it didn't happen. So it's like just take that mentality and throw it in the garbage. Just change yourself. The moment that somebody, in my opinion...
But if we change ourselves, we are changing the culture that you said we can't change. How does that line up?
The moment that somebody lets go of the perceived obligation that they have to change the world is the moment where that person can truly be happy. Because then...
And that destroys the world because no one no longer cares about anything. And if someone feels like killing their neighbors, they just go ahead and kill them because no one is gonna stop them. Because what are you gonna do? Change the world by changing the opinion of your neighbor that you shouldn't be executed? That's changing. What a fucking dumb thing to say. What a circular and completely nonsensical way of viewing things.
Then they stop trying to seek approval or validation from other things and other people.
You're supposed to just accept the fact that it's an
Seeking approval from people and blah 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 is genetically coded in us. Do you know what happens to a child when their parents don't pay attention to them? Well, you probably get a rapist by 12 years old. That's what happens. So, you know, very, very incredibly stupid opinions.
issue. Okay, it's an issue, and it's because of some external factors that we can't necessarily change. And if you look at data, it shows that, like you said, or you've claimed or whatever, testosterone is like decreasing and masculinity is decreasing and stuff like this. What do you do about it?
Yeah, testosterone's dropped 0.1% every month since 1950.
Wow, what the fuck?
That's the way that people get...
How did you not know that? Have you not looked in the mirror? Obviously, that is probably true.
Prescribed TRT from
doctors.
doctors.
Oh my god.
So a lot of the time, there's a bunch of places in Austin that do this.
Oh.
Yeah, it's probably our diets, what we eat, and, you know, the lifestyle habits that we have. It's, well, technically fixable, technically. I mean, too late for China. There are literally villages in China that are 100% cancer. And I'm literal cancer. Everyone in... there are villages in China that have cancer. 100% of the village population has cancer because of, you know, every choice made. But worry about yourself. Don't worry about anyone else. Don't change the world. It's fine.
Doctors will use the normal range for testosterone levels for men from 1950 to gauge off whether or not you've got low testosterone.
Right.
Could they have just been high in 1950, or is it like...
No, it's just, well, maybe, I don't know. I guess we didn't have the...
This is the classic meme of... you know, there's a circle and everyone's pointing at each other. One is the grandpa who has asbestos poisoning. No, lead poisoning, I'm sorry. The grandpa is pointing at the kid and his kid. He has lead poisoning. The father has asbestos poisoning. And the kid has plastic poisoning. Oh, it's great. Just pick your poison.
The levels in like 1850, but I would want to know what happened between 1850 and 1950 for us to be like, oh, and men all had this huge surge in testosterone. That doesn't seem like it's going to be too likely.
It was in Austin,
but
really?
Yeah, dude, I don't disagree. Like, if any other group has a problem, we ask, what can we do to fix society? If men have a problem, we say, what is it that men are doing where they can't fix themselves? Like, we spend billions and billions in taxpayer-funded money to set up charities and initiatives and research to
This is true, by the way, is that men have way less access to, like, resources like shelters and stuff like that than women do. It's just true.
Find help.
I don't think that's true. You just don't try. I mean, how often do you talk about your emotions? Not a lot, but there's a lot of guys out there who can, you know, do it. And if you just do it and overcome it, you probably can do it in the future. You just don't try.
Groups that are struggling. Yep. Like, the biggest risk to a man under the age of 30...
Mental health? Yeah, nobody gives a shit about a guy's mental health.
Learn to control yourself.
Because, and the reason why is because men are disposable. That's why men go out and fight wars. You think about it from, like, again, a biological perspective. How many men does it take to repopulate a village versus women? It's pretty easy for a guy to go fuck 3 girls.
Oh, no, he is right on this point. He just leaned into it in a strange way. I thought he was going to say something stupid. Saved! What a time to be alive.
And, you know, it's a lot harder for a girl to go and have 3 kids at the same time. That's just how it is. It's biological. We're not going to, like, unwire this. It's not going to, like, oh, well, at a certain point, this is not going to be how people think about things anymore. No, it's not. That's just how it is. I think that as a guy, like, here's the thing. It's like, guys have a lot of shit that's, like, really kind of, like, bad.
Boring.
But I'll tell you one thing. I am so glad I'm a guy. I am. I feel so lucky that I'm a guy and not a girl. I would much rather have the problems that men have than the problems that women have. It's like and this is the thing, right? Is we can all talk about how hard it is for men, but at the end of the day, everybody's saying same, right?
His own
True. The biggest problem that women have is other women. True.
mortality are literally the hands that he has.
Yeah.
Like, you're more likely to die by suicide than any other way under the age of 30. By
That's
18
crazy.
to 30.
Holy shit.
Like, that's a big deal.
Wow.
It's a fucking big deal. That doesn't sound like privilege to me. Oh, well, no.
That's not true. I think that's not true. Leading cause of death in men under 30. What is the biggest kill of men under 30? Oh, suicide. Suicide prevention strategy. Suicide is the biggest killer of people under the age of 35 and the biggest killer of men under... this doesn't account for the whole world. This is just like Western society. Come on, that's boring. Yeah, but yeah, I would believe... Yeah, I would not even... Man, come on. That's boring. Use the whole world, not just Western society. Western society is boring.
No, guys have had it good for so long. Oh, yeah, well, like, fucking apart from the war and the dangerous jobs, and the, like, 40% of us, only 40% of us reproducing. It's like 60% of men not reproducing.
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't sound very good. In terms of how you can at least...
That sounds pretty decent. No, wait, actually, no. I'm a fan of eugenics. Eugenics are good, and already actually wildly used throughout the world. Even everyone says it's not. So 40%. That's not. Well, that's kind of. I have talked about this before, but who do you think of this 40% reproduces? The shitty version of, the red pill, Andrew Tate and whatnot, where the top 1% of men get all the women? No. Do they reproduce? Yes. But who also is reproducing? Poor people. Poor people tend to do that a lot more because they don't think about the future too much. That's why they're happier. The stupider you are, the happier you are, the less problems you have. A kid? Well, I'm fucking a girl right now. What kind of magical kid are we talking about? I'm just here in the moment. So, yeah, interesting.
At least begin to change the culture around it. I think that accepting that guys are struggling and, like, changing the narrative. Like, the deadbeat dad, like the Homer Simpson, the Peter Griffin, the, like, sort of stupid father role. If you ever watch any kids' TV show as well, it's always...
Homer Simpson was not a deadbeat dad at the start. He actually put the family values a lot in front. Now he's a complete deadbeat dad, though.
Be honest, like Homer Simpson plays and spends time with his kids. He's got a stable job. He doesn't cheat on his wife. He owns a home. He's a law-abiding citizen. I think Homer Simpson's kind of a G.
Don't know about the law-abiding citizen, but this was true probably when... Yeah, this was true when we were growing up and watching The Simpsons. This is not true nowadays. Oh, no. Homer Simpson's absolutely a deadbeat dad now. But he used to be a good
I'm gonna
person.
be real. Like, that's not so bad after all.
That the boys are kind of boisterous and clumsy.
Yeah, can you imagine that there was a time when Homer Simpson was actually portrayed as a person who actually sacrificed self-gain, self-need, everything, just for his family. No longer dad, boy. Great stuff. Anyway, I'm getting bored. Bye-bye.